2 rats and 2 lizards. I put a glue trap out and caught one medium-sized young rat. I set him outside on the ground, and the next thing I knew, 2 lizards were stuck to the trap. Then later that day, another rat, about the same size as the first one, got stuck in the same trap. They had all congregated together for some reason, maybe out of curiosity, or maybe the trap somehow tastes good. I think the traps are baited with something that makes them want to taste the glue, but it's really weird. 2 rats and 2 lizards on one glue trap. I set it out on the ground, and something took it away. A bobcat, maybe, or a coyote with sticky teeth now. Chewed up jacket. A medium-sized rat was feeding on my jacket on the chair when I started into the shed tonight. He scurried into a little hole, then sat there looking at me, laughing. "Ha ha ha, old surfer man. You have killed my family, but you will not kill me." And I said, "Oh yeah? Wait a minute." So I put a glue trap on the desk and tacked it down with thumbtacks, which is a secret so they can't escape. And lo and behold, later that night I heard this screaming, and there was a worn-out rat stuck to a plastic bag and a glue trap. He was so tired that he couldn't move anymore, so I jumped up in the air and landed one foot on his head 2 times. And then he got a free ride to oblivion over the hill and down to the creek. Four lizards. I was very angry when I arrived home yesterday. One of the finest holes in the shed, which I had a glue trap in front of, was stuck with lizards. 4 little ones from the yard, and they were glued tight. Unfortunately, I was able to rescue the pretty little lizards from their death by melting the glue in the sun. Then they scurried away into the bushes as quickly as they could to avoid being stuck again. Tonight, I will try the bucket with the diving board. The glue traps cost $3 apiece. Quite expensive for a man on my budget with no work. The Pugil Stick. In the middle of the night, the old surfer man heard screaming that he had never heard before. He got out of bed and looked down behind the bureau and saw the most monstrous rat of all rats that he had seen in the past. Probably the oldest and biggest rat ever seen in the village. It must have been 3 pounds of seething rat beast. The last glue trap that every other rat had ignored somehow got stuck on his behind, right where his balls and tail are, and he just couldn't tear it off because he couldn't get any traction. I knew this was the time that I would use my Pugil Stick, which is a large fighting stick used by the Marines in their training at MCRD, where as a Cub Scout I had seen many Marines get their asses kicked all over the place by either their drill sergeants or one-on-one with fellow Marines wearing football helmets and beating each other almost to death. The rat saw me reaching for the giant stick and knew that it was about to meet his end. He immediately screamed and ran towards the hole in the shed, even though he was stuck to the trap. He was so powerful that he could still run with his front legs, but he couldn't free himself, so he stuck his face with all his might out of the hole, thinking it would be outside and he would be able to escape the wrath of the surfer man. I ran outside the shed and saw his head poking through the hole, which was like a guillotine for the Pugil Stick, but he still couldn't pull the rat trap through. It was the most valiant effort I had ever seen for survival, but it was too late. The Pugil Stick came down on his face, and he was silenced. The next day I reached down into the hole and pulled his body and glue trap out. The glue trap was stuck to his nuts and his tail. I threw him into the trash, and man, did he make the trash smell. Ground squirrels. I have these gnarly ground squirrels in the yard, and they are really badass. I think they're the ones that come and eat the rats that get stuck in the traps. Ground squirrels are a carnivorous species of squirrels that live in holes. They've adapted to the point where they will eat anything. They're very elusive, and they're the ones that I think have shredded the boxes of paper in my storage shed. My papers are all fucked up and thrown everywhere and chewed up. I think they love to take some of it back into their holes. The squirrels don't come after my food unless I leave it on the table outside. They seem to be very leery about coming into the Grizzly Adams shed. But for the rats at night time, that's their playroom. They just go for one thing after another. They could have a jar of peanuts sitting out, and they'll chew right through the heavy-duty plastic lid. They're ravenous little bitches. Salad dressing. I thought maybe that I'd gotten rid of most of the rats. I came into my dark little Grizzly Adams shed and started listening to my radio. I always listened to my radio. It was 10 o'clock and I was going to sleep, and I had heard something scurrying on the bureau. I knew there was a big rat there because you can tell the difference. It wasn't the little scampering ones. This one had a loud sound, but I wasn't paying much attention because I was drifting off to sleep. Then all of a sudden, bam! There was a big crash, but I just dozed off to sleep anyway. I had 2 salad dressing bottles on the bureau because I like to put salad dressing on my avocados. But when I woke up in the morning, I saw that the rats had thrown down both bottles. The tops were pulled off them and they were draining onto the carpet. The French dressing was on the floor, and the vinegar and oil dressing had run all over the counter. It was a terrible mess. Unfortunately, I had no traps out because I've run out of money. And I never took those planks of wood from Chris, and now he's gone for 2 weeks in Mammoth. Bloodbath. When I lived in my old house nearby in the snake pit, the ground floor was below ground level. Because of the floods, the house was like subterranean almost. And there was this rat that had been driving me crazy. So one night I got a big killer rat trap. The wooden one with a guillotine to crush the small cranium of a large rat. Bam! I heard the trap go off. It was on the kitchen sink, and this rat had just flipped back and forth for what seemed like an hour. I heard it from my bedroom and in the back where I was asleep. And when I got up in the morning, I swear to God, that whole counter was just covered with blood. The rat had flopped over it, bleeding profusely from his mouth. At first I was scared to touch the rat blood, thinking it was some terrible disease. But I guess I cleaned it up and went on with the rest of my life. Vitamin pill bottles. It was Wednesday night when I found out that my rat friends had learned a new trick. One big rat was on the chest of drawers, knocking the vitamin pills onto the ground one after another. Then he jumped down on the ground and pushed them with his nose, trying to take them away through the hole in the wall where he could chew on them and retrieve the vitamins. But I stopped him. I took the bottles away and stuck them in the plastic drawers that I had discarded. The drawers don't keep the rats out, but I fill them up again anyway. The little teeny rats can squeeze through, but the big ones won't go in there just for the vitamin bottles.